to the Point with Congressman Bill Pascrell, focusing on the concerns and issues facing the families of New Jersey's 9th Congressional District.
Hello, I'm Congressman Bill Pascrell. I'd like to welcome you to the latest edition of To the Point. With us today, representing Ohio's 12th Congressional District, is Congressman Pat Tiberi. Congressman Tiberi is a graduate of the Ohio State University, worked as a realtor while serving in the Ohio House of Representatives, and eventually became the House Majority Leader. He has been a member of the U.S. House of Representatives since 2001, and I've had the pleasure of serving with him in the House Ways and Means Committee since 2007. I served with Congressman Tiberi on the powerful House and Ways and Means Committee, where he is the current chairman of the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Health and Services and the Subcommittee on Tax Policy. Most important, Congressman Tiberi is a friend. We served together as co-chairs of the Italian-American Congressional Delegation, and he's here with us today to discuss his experience in Congress, his years as a public servant, as this will be his final term as a member of the United States House of Representatives. So, Pat, welcome.
Great to be here, Bill.
We're honored to have you.
I'm honored to be on your show.
And I'm thrilled about this. I'm excited about this because you have been a great friend, a true friend, a man of his word. And not everybody in the Congress keeps their word.
On both sides of the aisle, right? Absolutely.
Anywhere keeps their word. So,
Yeah.
so the point of the matter is I'm anxious to talk to you about this experience. I'm looking, Pat, in your history. You majored in journalism. I majored in journalism. And I'll tell you the crazy story.
I don't have a TV show like you.
I'll tell you this crazy story about when I went out to look for a job in communications in journalism. When I saw what they were paying, I said, I better find something else. So I wound up teaching, much to my parents' chagrin. They've passed. They've gone to their maker. They wanted me to be a lawyer. And we have similar backgrounds. I was the first one to graduate. You were the first one to graduate high school in your family.
Right.
I was the first one to graduate grammar school in my family.
Oh, wow.
So I was the great hope in the neighborhood. There's a lot of pressure, Pat.
I bet.
Did your parents have like aspirations that this is what they wanted you to be when you grew up?
You know, my mom and dad, both me, and I'm the oldest, and my sisters, they just wanted us to get an education because they believed that an education in America was the great equalizer.
Right.
Neither of them had a formal education in America. They both came over to...
The smartest people we ever met, though.
That's exactly right. I was just going to say that, Bill. I mean, my dad has a 6th grade Italian education, and he's the smartest guy I've ever met.
God bless him.
And what he was able to accomplish, he's a steelworker.
Yeah.
But think about it. What he was able to accomplish, and you have the same story, is he came to America at 16 with nothing. With his older sister. Didn't know the language, didn't know our culture, didn't know anybody, and he was able to provide for me and my sisters and encourage us to get an education, go to college, get a degree, and with understanding English and that formal education, you could make something of yourself, whatever that might be.
Right, right. When I look back, a lot of the guys I hung out with didn't make it. Period. Education was important, but up just to a point. I don't know how I made it through high school.
I think I know.
To go into college, to make it into college, and I want to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
You played an instrument in the high school band. You played a trumpet. I played a trumpet, by the way.
And I wanted to be a professional baseball player for the Cincinnati Reds when I grew up.
Really?
Didn't work out so well.
I had 2 tryouts with the Phillies.
I didn't even get that far.
But I was young, spitting vinegar, and
well, you're still spitting vinegar.
They wanted long ball hitters. They wanted rather than punch hitters. I was a punch hitter. But we have similar. I'm looking at it and
Very
I'm saying,
funny.
God, this is interesting.
Yep.
I'm older than you are, but we have backgrounds that are saying. How did they take that you ran? Your parents, how did they take it when you say, I'm going to run? That's one thing to be a legislator. I was a legislator too.
Right.
You were the Speaker of the House?
Majority Leader.
I was the Speaker Pro Tem.
Jeez.
So, I mean, it's pretty close going back and
Unbelievable.
forth. But when you were going to run for Congress, they were all in, right?
Absolutely. So my parents were Democrats. My dad was a steelworker.
Yeah.
He was a Reagan Democrat. So Reagan was the
My
first.
father was similar.
So my dad,
Isn't that interesting?
first time he voted for a Republican was Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And so I began, when I was in college, I accidentally got assigned an internship, a field political science class that I had with my congressman, whose name was John Kasich.
Wow.
They loved John Kasich.
Yeah.
He's now our governor of our state.
Yes.
And John Kasich then hired me part-time as I was working my way through college.
Yeah.
And that kind of opened my eyes a little bit because while I was a registered Democrat, I really didn't know anything about
Yeah.
politics or government, but I liked Reagan. First person I voted for in 1984 was Ronald Reagan. So, you know, interesting background, but my parents, while they were Democrats, I would say they were conservative Democrats.
Right, right. So were mine.
Like many in the Italian community in Central Ohio.
Right.
A lot of the members of the Italian community were entrepreneurs,
Yep.
and so it wasn't shocking to them. But they did change and become Republicans when I had a primary when I ran for Congress, and they became Republicans.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I had to vote for you in the primary.
Right.
Well, isn't that fascinating?
And I won the primary.
That is a fascinating kind of thing. My father voted more Republican than Democrat.
Wow.
And then, of course, when I became a congressman, he felt obligated. That's probably why. That's the only reason. But he was proud of me, my dad, and my mother. He lived to see me get sworn in.
That's awesome.
And he didn't die too long after that. And it was a great time we had down here in Washington. We held up, I had 4 buses down from New Jersey. Remember those days when you got sworn in the first
Yes.
time? You brought your family here.
We came in buses. Absolutely right. And they
here's
were
a
very
kid off
proud.
the streets of Columbus.
Yep.
Here you are. And I was a kid off the street of Patterson, New Jersey.
Right.
And now, look what you did. You rose. You became a chairman of a couple of subcommittees. That's a terrific history, Pat.
Yeah.
Is that your best time in the Congress when you served on Ways and Means?
You know, Ways and Means is an awesome committee. Just coming here that first year was, you had to pinch yourself, and I still often pinch yourself, but it was like, I'll tell you a funny story. You'll appreciate this. My uncle from Italy, my mom's youngest brother, said to me when he came here, he said, "You have no idea what a big deal this is." Because in Italy, even in Italy still, it depends what family you're from, and we're not from the right family. And in America, somebody like you can get elected to the Congress, right? And he mentioned Bill Clinton getting to become president. That's a big deal from his background.
All the way from hope.
Oh, only in America.
That's right. Only in America. What's the most exciting time you had in the Congress of all the 16, 17 years?
You know, there are so many things to point to, Bill, but one of the things that you and I have had the ability to share together, and you mentioned it at the beginning, is being co-chairman of the Italian American Caucus and having a shared heritage and putting our partisan labels aside and our R's and D's aside and celebrating the alliance between a very important ally of ours, Italy, and America, and getting to know people on a more personal level that share that common heritage. And I think that is so important and, quite frankly, lacking in Washington, D.C. today, not just in the House, but all over Washington, D.C.
I agree.
And in our country.
Yeah.
And, back in the good old days, there was a lot more of that, and a lot more things got done.
Yeah, I am not too big on identity politics. I think it gets you in a lot of trouble sometimes.
I'm not either.
And, I judge everybody equally. Everybody's born equal. It doesn't matter what country you're born in.
Agreed, 100%.
You could be born in the middle of the Sahara Desert. If they have no constitution, you're still
absolutely right.
God-given rights, and the Constitution protects them.
Absolutely, but to share our common heritage,
that's correct.
The history of where our forefathers came from, and the alliance, which is important strategically, between Europe and Italy, and Italy and the United States is very important too. And that's some of the things we got to do more so than we would have if we hadn't been part of that.
Before we got here, this place was a lot more friendly.
Absolutely.
I read about it. I hear about it from folks who've been here a real long time. And I don't know. You don't have to, but I would want you to respond to what I'm going to say about. I noticed a big change happening before I got here in the early 90s when Newt Gingrich ran, worked very hard for that position. I read his books.
Right.
and how we got to this point, what he studied, and followed very, very carefully. And he took over at an interesting time in the early 90s, 94, the Gingrich Revolution. But I remember him saying something which really angered me. You know, in our business, you better not get angry because you'll stay angry.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta deal with it maturely.
Right.
He said at that time when he took over, now the Democrats are irrelevant. And in '96, when I ran and got elected, I beat an incumbent, and Clinton ran that year for the second time.
Yep, and won.
After Clinton won, we had a Democratic president again, and we had Republicans. And he said, "You're irrelevant." Then I saw him go back down Pennsylvania Avenue to make a deal a couple of times. And those guys worked out something where we balanced the budget for 2 or 3 years. But something changed. Maybe part of our heart changed. I don't know if you noticed, because you didn't get there till 2001.
Right.
And when you got here, what was your observations?
Well, it was certainly less nonpartisan than the State House was, and the legislature in Ohio, where I had come from. But, you know, I look back now over the last 17 years, and you're right, but it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great, but it's progressively gotten worse. And it's gotten worse in Ohio, too, by the way. And I think we're kind of a reflection of society. You know, people have gotten much less polite in talking to elected officials.
Right.
I'm sure you see it as well.
Yeah.
Whether they be Republicans or Democrats, by the way. You know, I'm not conservative enough. I'm too liberal. You know, it's
names.
all. Yeah, right. It's all over the political spectrum, and people have lost their manners. I think social media has made it worse.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Social media is great.
Yeah.
Technology is wonderful, but it's also used in ways that make people a lot less polite.
Yeah, no, people don't have a time to be with their private thoughts.
That's right.
Because you're flashed there and you're flashed there.
That's exactly right.
You always got to be on. Oh, really?
That's exactly right, Bill.
But you know, sometimes
that's the big difference.
And I think that is a big difference. I think that is a very, very big difference. Respecting one another. You know, I could be very vociferous when I get into a debate, et cetera, et cetera. I've always tried to be respectful of the other person, give the other person the benefit of the doubt. But some people have come here to be simply in a pedantic debate.
100% agree with you. And sometimes people misread, because of where we are today. If you raise your voice or get emotional, they don't hear what you're saying, but they see the emotion and they think that you're being rude.
That's correct.
And I think that happens more often today as well. To your point, because I think you are not one of those folks.
Try not to be.
But when you get emotional, you are pretty emotional.
Yes.
Probably part of the heritage.
Part of the heritage.
But you know, you are somebody, Bill, and I believe this, and I know a number of my colleagues agree with, that you're a guy who wants to make the trains work on time, and is willing to give, and wants to govern, and respects somebody even if their opinion is differently. And I'm living proof of that, because we've disagreed on things.
Absolutely.
But we do it in a disagreeable, in a disagreeable way.
I said to you a couple of years ago, I remember saying at the meeting, well, look, if Tiberi and Pasquale are in the room, we'll come out with a resolve. We'll resolve the problems.
Yep.
All of us should be able to think that way.
Absolutely right.
And I meant it.
And it's missing today.
It is.
It's missing today, particularly from the higher levels of government.
Yeah.
And the leadership in both parties, quite frankly. And until we get a president, a speaker, a Senate majority leader, both parties, who's willing to put that aside and work with the other side like our founders intended, this is going to be a tough slog.
Yeah. We don't want to end the age of controversy. But the question is, in conflict, you must respect the other person.
Correct.
And the other person's position.
Right.
If it's the other person's position, and that we don't become sycophants to our party, we don't simply become followers.
Absolutely.
How did you make that? How did you do that balancing act between party and your own independent conscience? because you do have it. You've demonstrated it.
Yeah.
Not only in the bills that you put forth, but how you debate, how you discuss issues.
Yeah, well, you know what? You have to be willing to lose an election. I had a primary in 2010 or 2012, I think it was, when I had an opponent.
We had it both at the same time.
When I had an opponent
primaries.
who called me an Obama lapdog, right, in a Republican primary.
So he was to the right of Charlemagne,
yes,
probably.
yeah. And so I beat him 80-20. So you have to have confidence in the fact that,
Right.
you know what, you got to do what's important for country first. And I have a philosophy. My philosophy is more conservative than yours, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, I know that we don't live in a dictatorship. We
Right.
live in a republic, and
Right.
you have to compromise at the end of the day, and you have to, you know, weigh both sides of it and try to work with the other side as best you can. And sometimes the other side's to my right, not just to my left.
An example of that is how we started off the year of 2017. I'm of the belief in the minority party, we Democrats are in the minority, that if the president started off in trying to deal with a subject that we might get some agreement on, not all, but some, he would have been better off, the country would have been better off. I thought the wrong subject was health care. It's personal to everybody. It's personal. We got beat up, remember in 2010?
I do.
We got the hell knocked out of us.
I remember.
In forums out there, you know, public meetings, town meetings. But if you can't stand the heat, as Harry Truman said, get out of the kitchen. But there was a perfect example. Now, why did he think that that was the way to get through to common ground? Or maybe he never hoped to get common ground. I thought it was the worst subject. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, well, it's always easy to be an armchair quarterback.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but yeah, yes, you're absolutely right. Infrastructure probably would have been the best big issue to kind of kick it off and try to get some bipartisanship here.
Right.
And the president had, you know, he quite frankly had the chops to do that on infrastructure and to get Democrat support based upon his history of supporting Democrats. And infrastructure was a big deal to him. So I don't know why they chose health care. They certainly aren't going to listen to me, and still not going to listen to me.
We did the same thing.
You did.
In
2009.
In 2009,
You
when
did.
we started off that year,
Yep.
before the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, we started off talking about the carbon.
Yep. Cap and trade.
And the cap and trade, and the Senate said they weren't going to bring it up.
No, I remember that. And a couple guys in the Midwest aren't here because of that.
That's correct.
In the House.
That is absolutely
Democrats.
correct. So you lay the foundation and move on to the tougher things. That's what I would have.
History tends to repeat itself, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does, regardless of which party you're in.
Absolutely.
What's the toughest subject you had to face since you've been in the Congress in the 17 years you've been here?
You know, the most emotional one, I mean, there have been, I would put two out there equally because they were gut-wrenching emotional. And one was the decision on Iraq, quite frankly, and I think we were opposite sides of that. That was hard.
I voted for yes.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't realize that. I didn't look at that.
I made up my mind that morning after I had read the New Yorker magazine. I found Saddam Hussein
That's exactly
had used chemical weapons.
Yes.
That was the second time I read about that, and that pushed me over the top. In my district up in North Jersey, it's 80-1 to vote no. I voted yes. I said we only had one president at the time. And then 6 months later, when I apologized to my constituents, I said, I made a big mistake. I didn't blame Bush. I said, I made the mistake, not Bush.
So
I'm a grown adult.
and you remember that. That was that was hard. Ooh. And the other one that was hard, and you might remember this too, it was that week. I voted no the first time, and then I voted yes the second time after some of us Democrats and Republicans got the speaker to change the bill a little bit. It was when the market crashed. During the 2008 campaign.
I remember that like it happened yesterday.
I remember we were on the floor and we were getting calls
Paulson comes in.
Yes, right.
With the crumpled up paper.
Yeah.
This is the end of the world.
That's exactly.
You guys got to act now.
Yes. Yes. And I wasn't convinced, and the market went down.
How would President Trump handle? He said he handled what a mess I got when I became the president. What if you were the president in those circumstances? What would you have done?
Pretty tough time.
When when there's no investment from the corporate America and there's no money out there. So what do you do in that particular position? You spend money in order to get this economy moving again. It's not the answer,
no, I mean,
but you got to do it.
It's a series of bad choices. There's no good choice. But when
Right.
you have people calling you saying, university saying, I can't meet payroll because
know.
I can't get credit because the credit's frozen. You have a bank president say, this 85-year-old widow who just took out in cash $115,000 to put under her mattress because she's afraid she's going to lose it all, even though we know she wouldn't.
There goes
because
the bank's revenue.
Exactly right.
But these are the decisions that you have to make.
Right.
What do you think you'll remember most about the Congress? Now you're going to be here another year, so I'm not trying to, push you aside. You're going to be a very.
I'm not going to be here that long.
You're going to be active.
But I'm not going to be
You're
that.
going to be here a little while.
So,
anyway.
remember when I came in, 2001.
Yeah.
I remember September 11th,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
all of us do. I mean, especially your constituents in New Jersey and New York. Oh my goodness, and here in D.C. and
Heart-wrenching.
Northern Virginia. Oh my goodness, what a horrific thing that you'd never believe that you would see in your lifetime.
Never.
You were thinking you were in the middle of a movie almost,
Or a dream.
right? Or a dream, or a nightmare. I mean, that is unbelievable. And quite frankly, just the mere fact that a kid, son of immigrants, could actually walk the halls of Congress and try to make good and not worry about getting credit for it, and working with people like you and others to make life a little bit better for everybody else.
I was fortunate to go to the pile with the president. There were several of the congressmen went up there. I thought it was a nightmare. I said to myself, as we're landing in Long Island, we saw the smoke storm, and we're taking a bus to the pile, and I couldn't believe this. I said, "This has got to be a dream. It cannot have happened this way. It cannot." And I remember President Bush that day getting people together, and I'll remember what he said that night. We cannot blame the Muslim community.
Right. He was right.
These are crazy people that did this.
Right.
And let's not take it out on them.
Right.
What a spiritual thing to say.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't vote for the guy.
Leadership
That's
at a real critical time.
Real leadership.
At a critical
real
time.
leadership does not pile on
Or divide.
or divide. And folks that are watching us and listening to us right now,
Right.
you don't have to tell them what you're talking about, and I don't have to tell them what I'm talking about. They
Right.
get the picture, and it's clear as day. It's clear as day, Patrick.
It's back to what you talked about earlier, Bill. It's identity politics, and Republicans use it, and Democrats use it. You don't use it. I don't use it, and we got to really work hard to try to get more of our colleagues not to do it, because we're elected to try to not divide, but to unite.
Yeah, and I think, in my own opinion, probably don't agree with me, that this tax thing that we just have gone through and are still going through, and we're filming this on Pearl Harbor Day, very apropos, could have been done different. And I always thought that we should have been in it in the beginning.
I don't disagree
And
with
I
that.
think we would have come out with something.
I don't disagree with that. And by the way, I'm not the chairman, so I didn't have.
I wish you had.
I didn't have the choice, but yeah, I mean, we got to get back to that. We got to get back to where the committees of jurisdiction actually get to be involved in the 100% of
And
writing the
leadership
bill.
doesn't dictate
Whether
to
they're
those
Democrat
chairmen.
or Republican leaders, absolutely
correct.
right,
Yeah.
and that members of the committees can work together and get things done. And on smaller things, we've gotten some stuff done. I'm thinking of some of the healthcare things I've done with Sandy Levin, a
And your
liberal
bill-
Democrat in Michigan.
You got one of the great bills, new markets.
Yes, new market.
Talk about that for you.
Yeah, so I've got, innovation. This Innovation and Opportunity Act is patterned after the New Market Tax Credit, which is about encouraging investment, private investment in
How can you be
communities.
against that?
In communities.
Human capital.
Human capital in communities in Patterson or in Columbus that are distressed, as defined by the U.S. Census Bureau, and trying to get more targeted dollars into those communities to try to revitalize those communities and give people opportunity in those communities. And I think we're going to get there.
I hope you're right. I really do. What are you going to miss most?
People like you.
Oh, gee.
You know, it's about. I'm not going to miss the circus, but I'll miss the clowns. How about you? Get that? What I mean?
I'll accept. I'll accept the job as a clown.
I will miss the people here. Despite the headlines in your constituency and my constituency, we had another elected official resign today. There might be another one to resign next week.
Yeah, I know.
Despite that, we're a reflection of society. Most members that I know here, Democrats and Republicans, most, not all, are good people and are here for the right reasons.
And you know what, Pat? We're going to miss you.
Thank you.
We're going to miss you because of who you are and what your parents made.
Yeah.
And they knew what they were doing.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless Columbus,
Thank you.
your whole district. You live outside of Columbus a little bit now, right?
Yep, live in the suburbs. Yep.
What town?
It's Galena.
Galena, very good. And your beautiful children.
Thank you.
And wife. You got it made.
Thank you.
And I know you'll be successful regardless of what you do.
I appreciate that, Bill.
You are.
I will miss you.
You are a success. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this edition to The Point. I'd like to thank my guest, Pat Tiberi. You've heard our thoughts. Now I'd like to hear what you think about today's show. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, stay tuned. The address, phone number, website address will appear in a moment. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time on To The Point. Take care.
After 15 years of smoking, Eva Marie quit. There's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Listen. All it took was someone who would insist that I just try.
Suddenly, everything was turned around because they judge you.
You tell them, I don't need this.
No one is going to understand.
Unless they've been through it, how can they?
Then one day you realize
You feel so hopeless.
I need help. I need help.
You feel so hopeless.
Then one day you realize
Unless they've been through it, how can they understand?
I don't need this.
No one's going to judge you.
suddenly everything was turned around because they insist that I just try.
All it took was someone who would just
Listen.
After leaving the military, some veterans may face homelessness, but they aren't alone in the battle. Thanks to a simple phone call, they can get help from a trained professional at VA. If you know of or are a veteran in need, call 877-424-3838.